Welcome to the Evergreen Church Life Podcast. The Bible tells us in the book of Philippians that we, as believers, need to be unified in our mission to know God, share life, and change the world. We have a lot going on at Evergreen, and we want to help cultivate that culture of unity. The strategy of this podcast is simple. We sit down with ministry leaders here in our church and talk about how God is working around them.
Okay, we are going to continue our conversation from last time with Pastor Taylor Gabbert. He is the executive pastor over Next Gen, so he oversees our young adults and our students. So last time you heard kind of me be on the hot seat talking about the lead pastor of leadership, but we're going to talk to Taylor and continue this conversation since his ministry story and my ministry story are kind of interlinked. His job is kind of a continuation of what you guys heard last time. So Taylor, tell us, why does your role exist, and how does it fit into what we do here at Evergreen?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that churches have been coming to the realization of just over the last really 10 years or so is there's been a change in what it means to be a young adult. Because for a long time, there was basically two routes. You graduated high school and you either stayed home and got married, in which case we put you into a married Sunday school and we treated you like a married couple, or you went off to college. We didn't see you for 4 years. You came back. Either you came back married, you came back and got married, and then same thing, right? And so there was kind of a slow shift where churches started realizing that their young adults weren't getting married as quickly. And so you had all these singles in their 20s, early 20s, late 20s. You had people that weren't married. Some of them did go away still to college, and in some cases came back unmarried, and some of them stayed here and didn't get married. And so you had basically no place for them. Nobody who was focusing on them. Churches had a lot of kind of a shrug of what do we do with them? Mm-hmm. How do we even use them? And so the reason that this position exists is because you have an entire demographic that you're trying not to just lose. Just not pastor, not shepherd, not teach the word. And then you get them back, but you get them back at 29, 30, they have their first kid. Mm-hmm. And by the time you get them back and they've had their first kid, now you've got 10 years of adult scar tissue, very little discipleship, very little growth, and now you're trying to teach that person what it means to be an adult that serves the Lord. When instead, you have this 18, 19, 20-year-old that is ready to listen. They're high energy, motivated, right? And they start hearing the truth. They start hearing the word, getting discipleship. And now, one of the criticisms of young adult ministries that I think churches make that don't really see the vision for it is they'll go, well, they don't tithe. It's yeah, but they bring life, right? They bring vibrancy and life and energy to the church, and they bring church service in a lot of cases.
Yeah, they bring sweat equity.
Yeah,
into the
and
church.
so, we had I think it was 2 years ago, we were setting up for Christmas, and we had all of these young adult men that showed up and were helping put out the Christmas trees and all that stuff. And we had a couple people. There was
for Christmas for the whole church.
Yes.
Yeah, it was for the whole church, not just a young adult thing.
So, we have all just dozens of Christmas trees. Mm-hmm. And so there was a church trip from another church using our lobby to leave on a trip. And it was mostly senior adults. And, it was an older group.
Yeah.
And they were standing in the lobby, and some of the men that were standing there went and asked one of our pastors, they said, how did you get all these young guys in the middle of the day to come serve the church? Because they were shocked.
Yeah.
They were shocked that
it was 9 in the morning.
Yeah, and we had young adult men that were serving the church because they've got the vision. And it's young adults sometimes have more flexible schedules. They have the passion. They have the desire to serve. I have a young adult right now that just quit the job he's had for a long time and took a job that he considers massively boring because the hours are so much better for him to be in church service more often. That's somebody who gets it. That's a person who said, I would rather take this job that I basically kind of is mundane so that I can spend even more time at the church, even more time serving, it's okay, that kid's at the beginning of his career. I have no doubt he's not tithing as much as somebody in their 50s who's, way into their career. But in some ways, he's providing something so much more tangible.
Yeah.
You know, and some people, they tithe and think that's their church service.
Yeah.
You know,
they've done
and then
it.
they check out. And it's like, your young adults, even this, I'll tell you, one of the biggest things I've learned about young adult ministry, it's actually like to my detriment, is you can be so much more straightforward with them. Because they're ready. They're at the beginning. They're not quite like, I think something happens when you start having kids that to some people, I'm not saying across the board, but something happens when you start having kids that people start telling themselves like, I know everything now.
Yeah.
You know? And some of that is like you're parenting this child that knows nothing.
Yeah.
But young adults aren't there yet.
Or you feel like you're expected to know everything.
Yeah, you like the kid is looking for you to know everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can look at a young adult in the face and be like, you're wrong and that was a bad decision.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're like, okay, what do I need to do to, you know, to follow the Lord? And it's like, you say that to an adult with 3 kids and they're like, how dare you?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I'm right, but I probably need to learn how to say it better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does your day-to-day look like? If you're because you're in charge of young adults and students.
Yeah.
By extension. So because you're an exec.
I'm the exec pastor of Next Gen. Next Gen covers everything from 7th grade through like 29 years old. And so I will say, I've never been a youth pastor, and I don't intend on being a youth pastor. So I lean heavily on Christian James, and he is doing an absolutely magnificent job. He is crushing youth ministry. My main point of emphasis in his lane is 2 things. One is be a resource for him. I'm there as a sounding board. I'm there to make sure he's thought through all the decisions he's making, how he's navigating things. I'm really an advisor in that way. And I tell him, I just want to be a resource to you. The second point of emphasis I have is transitioning seniors from his lane into Reach is what we call our young adult ministry. We have Reach College and then Reach Young Adults. And my goal is to transition well our seniors. And so that really was the starting place for the college ministry. Was we would have these 18-year-olds come into the young adult crew, and it was like the young adult crew was all like 25, 26, and they're like, I'm 18, I just graduated high school, I have nothing in common with
Who
these
are all
young
these
adults.
old people?
Yeah, and so we had to create a space which became really the Sunday school, where it was just for the college students. And we've done a really good job of essentially, it's like once every 6 to 8 months, there's like a purge of like, you're too old, get out, you know, and we move people on. And I tell the young adults, the goal is to graduate. When I'm calling you a young adult for a season of life, the goal is not to be a young adult forever. The goal is to graduate. And so with Christian, it's a lot of just being there to be a resource for him as he manages the students, and helping them transition into the college lane, where I have Taylor Ollinghouse, and the young adult lane where I have Josh Randall. So I have essentially 3 associates, and I'm trying to progress all the way from 7th grade. I'm trying to progress our 7th graders all the way through their early and mid 20s. And here's the goal. The vision for Reach specifically, and kind of the Next Gen department overall, is to produce young adults into the bride of Christ. Like they are, it's almost like creating this microcosm of the church within the church. Like, what are we doing on Tuesday nights? We're practicing church. We're giving them a place to serve, a place to do worship, a place to hear a sermon, a place to share the gospel. And we're doing all of that not so they stay and we just make this little kingdom for ourselves, but actually so that we can kind of jettison them back into the church on Sundays to serve in those same capacities and bring that practice into the whole church.
Yeah. An 18-year-old is an adult.
Yes.
And so we treat them like adults.
Yes.
They have less experience than an 80-year-old, but they are an adult disciple of Christ.
Yeah.
So explain the difference between like Reach and like usually people think of young adult ministry as youth group 2.0.
Yeah, which
we already talked about how we would preach 45 minutes at them and they don't blink an eye.
Yes.
Right. So how and why is Reach different than youth group 2.0?
Yeah. So there's, first of all, the youth group, because you have, now I don't want to be disparaging to our student ministry in any way. Christian James does not teach like little kid lessons.
No, he teaches big lessons too.
Yes,
he does.
But that being said, he has to deal with I would say like three main things that make it different. One is because there's a 7th grader in the room, and that 7th grader is having a vastly different life experience right now than their 18-year-olds, he kind of has to preach even in application broader.
Yeah.
And whereas I can be more narrow in the young adult specific lane.
Yeah.
Also, he's gonna have a lot more emphasis on fun and games. Now, why is that good? It's not necessarily for the kids. Like, we have kids that are going to be there every week because they want to be there, or they're seeking the Lord. But how do they get their friends to come? You're an 8th grader. How do you get your 8th grade friend to come to youth group if you tell them, like, it's just a Bible study? And it's like, we want him to hear the Bible study. We want him to hear the gospel, but he might come that first time because it's fun, right?
Yeah.
Well,
can you imagine 8th graders having fun? Like, not in this church.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Youth group's supposed to be fun.
And so they have a huge selling point on that fun. The other big difference for them is that because they're dealing with minors, there is a lot of cultivating the parents, cultivating the leadership, and it's a lot more, it's almost like Christian's real job is to pastor parents and pastor leadership, and they help him shepherd students.
Right. That is one of the big differences, because with the Reach ministry, again, they're adults.
Yes.
And so we don't have a bunch of like sponsors of like 50-year-olds that are sitting around in the room. It's like, no, you like talk about like your leadership team and stuff, for instance.
And so that's where the transition from what Christian does, which again is very much in depth on the Bible teaching side, but even him, he has so many people in the room working that are full-blown adults and parents and things like this. Whereas by the time you get to where I am, my leadership team is it's like 20 people, but they're all young adults. And I pull young adults onto the team with the purpose of saying, here's your part of the ministry that I expect you to do, that you're going to pick up and run with. And so we're producing the bride of Christ, because if you serve in your church, you might be in charge of a ministry. You might be in charge of a lane where the pastors are expecting you to come through on that lane, right? And so, for instance, one of the big things is the accountability that goes with service. We pull in the leadership team and we go, hey, we're going to give you this responsibility. It comes with privilege too. Like, you're behind the scenes, you're behind the curtain, you get to see what's going on with the pastors and everything. But you don't get to do that and skip Reach every other week. Yeah. Like, there's an accountability. It's like you got to show up. You got to be there. How can you be a leader if every time you feel a little tired or you got a little headache, you don't show up? And it's like, but that happens in church too. Yeah. Our most dependable and respectable lay leaders are the people who we can count on to show up and lead by example. Yeah. And so we're training that.
I think it's important to highlight here too, to remind everybody who's listening that Scripture tells us in Ephesians 4 that it's through serving that people become mature.
Yes.
And so there are people who are jaded about serving in ministry because they have they've been overworked and they've been not treated well. But that doesn't change the biblical precedent that maturity comes through serving, which is why there's such a heavy emphasis in serving. And I think the young adults, Taylor has done this really well, that he's provided a space for them to serve in a way that contributes to the entire church, because the ultimate goal, whether it's student ministry or young adult ministry, is maturity.
Yes. And even this, my leadership team isn't doing all the work either. My leadership team we call them leaders for a reason. They have whole teams under them in their lane that are what I call the volunteer level, because volunteer level doesn't take a lot of midweek prep. Like, you show up on Tuesday and you can do whatever you need to do. The leadership is expected to do some prep leading up to Tuesday, whereas if you're on the volunteer team, you're just showing up that night and helping. But the whole point is everybody at every level is learning to serve the church either as a volunteer or as a leader with real responsibility, actual accountability to, like, and one of the big emphasis, right, is replacing yourself. If you're going to leave the leadership team, I ask often that you are looking at who in your volunteers is being cultivated and trained up to take your spot. Because that's the right answer anywhere in church service. Yeah,
and it's not a bad thing. Like, we all go through seasons,
yes,
all the time.
Yeah, my goal is not you need to work in this spot in my lane forever because I need you there. Yeah. It's hey, I have you as long as I have you. This is a season of your life where you're serving because you love the Lord, but in anticipation of the Lord calling you out and deploying you somewhere else, be looking for who's he's going to call to replace you next.
Yeah.
You know? And then to answer a little bit back, just kind of the day-to-day question, I spend the vast majority of my time is spent either studying for teaching or meeting people one-on-one and pouring into them. Because the way that I get the most done in my lane, the way that I have the most influence, like I always tell people, right, we talked about this last time, we're averaging somewhere around 120 people at Reach. Mm-hmm. I can't pastor 120 people.
No.
Like most Baptist churches, I think the average Baptist church is 40 people.
Yeah.
I can't pastor 120 people by myself. But if I'm pouring into my leadership team, I'm now multiplying myself into that crowd. And I tell my leadership team that I need you to help me love on, care for, look out for these 120 people. And I need you to replicate yourself so that we have even more reach and we can take even more people, you know? And so there's this, I would say a vast majority of my week is getting with my associates, my residents, and some of my lay leaders, my leadership team, and teaching them how to shepherd and pastor the people that are under all of us, you know, that we're looking out for.
And one of the things that's, I think, unique about Reach, too, is their investment is not just Tuesday nights at Reach.
Yeah, right.
Like, where else are they serving in the church?
Yeah, I mean, all over. There is young adult representation in every ministry in the church.
Yeah.
It is crazy. And actually, it's weird because it's almost become the answer to some problems. We'll have something going on, and it's, I'll tell, you know, actually, as an example of this, I'm gonna give a little plug here. We have an events planning team that Zach runs, and they are looking for people to help do media type stuff for these events. Well, I'm going to be pitching that to young adults. I'm going to bring that up to my young adults because they have the time and the capacity and the energy and the motivation to serve. And so it's weird because in that sense, events, you know, the people that don't already have 3 kids and need to stay home in the evening to get that family time actually end up being the answer to the problem of how do we get more people to serve in this lane that, you know, events mostly happen in the evening.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's exactly the kind of thing that we look for them to do.
We've even had like Saturday morning things. There's like a grandparenting thing. I remember like 2
and
summers ago.
We had a bunch of young adults
here's
serve.
half a dozen guys on a Saturday morning at 8 a.m. that are setting up chairs for the grandparent event.
Yeah.
So Taylor, if your job as the exec over Next Gen was to go away, like the role of someone who shepherds that demographic, if that piece of Evergreen Life disappeared, obviously someone would rise up to meet some of those needs. But as far as like it being a critical component of our family life, what would happen? Like what would be the impact of that?
Okay. It can sometimes be a short-sightedness when it comes to young adults. But the amount of young adults that I see at the end of 4 or 5 years in the young adult ministry who are becoming missionaries, going into ministry, becoming pastors, or just becoming some of the greatest, most dedicated super volunteers you've ever seen. And so one of the things is in the generations in the world that we live in now, a lot of student ministry and young adult ministry is that you have an entire demographic of people trying to figure out where they fit, what their identity is. Like, who am I supposed to be in this world? How am I supposed to fit in? And if you, again, we say it at Evergreen, people follow people, not programs. You can throw a curriculum at them, but if you don't have people who are intentionally loving them and leading them towards the truth of their identity being in Christ and their place being in the body, that your whole church will suffer because you're not producing good church members anymore. Like you're losing your high school kids completely.
Yeah.
Like they're going to go off and just disappear. Even if they don't go to college, they're just going to disappear. And then your young adults that should be becoming your next generation of pastors and missionaries, they don't even know where they fit in. Maybe they make it, maybe they don't, but a lot of them fall through the cracks. And some of that, I'll tell them to their face. I tell them all the time. They fall through the cracks sometimes on their, like, because of them, right? But it helps when you have people whose whole job it is to pursue them, to chase them down and say, no, don't fall through the cracks, come back, be at Reach, be a part of things, be in your community, you know?
You know, one of the things that I loved, so I was in charge of Reach for a number of years, and the somewhere along the way of raising our kids, I learned that children learn their basic worldview from their parents up until the age of like 7, 8, 9 years old. And then from puberty, essentially pre-puberty to their late 20s, early 30s, they're going to test everything that they've learned.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I loved about young adult ministry is that you could be so brutally honest with them, but that most of the time I would see church kids come back into the church after chasing the world for a little while in college or after college in their early 20s, and they would be trying to work out in their mind, how does God actually feel about me? Where does my faith actually meet the rubber meet the road? And to be able to walk with them as they're restored and to see God reach them in a tangible, real way was like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Because that's such a crucial time in a person's life. Like I know every single person goes through this season in their 20s or their late teens where it's like, hey, I'm going to try some things. I'm going to test the things that people have said that are bad for me. And usually like they come out the other side and they're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I wish I would have listened to that, but they realize that this is real.
Yeah. And on that note, one of the things I do want to address something I think is a common misconception or just a lie we tell ourselves. The young adult ministry is not merely for singles, and it is definitely not just a dating pool. We have probably a dozen married couples in that room, and they are growing in community with each other, with the people that they're peers with in the room, and also learning something super valuable about the church body, which is how to pour into the people behind them in the room, right?
Yeah.
It's like one of the things that this frustrates me so much about the church. We have such a consumer mindset when it comes to the church that we come and we go, well, where are my people? And I have always found the most rewarding relationships I have in the church are not with my people. They're with the people I'm pouring into. And it's like the married couples at Reach didn't buy into the lie that like, well, we're married. We're past that. Like we don't need that. You don't need community. You don't need anyone to pour into because that's actually the thing that fills us up in life. And the Reach couples that are the young adult couples that are in Reach that are pouring into people, man, they're filled up, they're thriving, they're doing great, and they have community because they didn't believe the lie that just leads to isolation.
Yeah, several of them that got married are now also, like you said, they're leading their peers, same age or slightly younger than them. They're like life group shepherds.
Yeah, life group shepherds.
They're doing like real church ministry.
And let's talk about that for a second. The other thing, I think this is where I have a disadvantage to youth because of the way that the parents work in the youth. Youth has a little bit of easier time getting workers.
Yeah.
The young adults do the heavy lifting
for themselves
in Reach, right?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what I need. I need disciplers. I need life group shepherds. Like I am literally going to spend the next like 4 weeks of church going to some of our adult Sunday school classes and making the appeal that people should volunteer to be life group shepherds for Reach because I have all of these young adults who need examples. They need people to pour into them. Yeah. They don't need you to come set up chairs. They're doing that.
Yeah.
They don't need you to come work the sound booth or lead the worship band. They need you to come tell them what you've learned about Jesus.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's what I need. I need people to come pour into my young adults.
They need to see mature, godly people and be in their homes, like see hospitality and see married couples. I have married couples be like, well, I have kids. Great. They need to see you parent too.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like they need to see that.
We need to be intergenerational, and that includes young adults and children.
One of the lies, right? Well, my life is messy. Yeah. Everybody's life is messy.
Welcome to life.
Yeah. And I need my young adults who are, by the way, struggling with idolizing things like marriage and kids to see the mess of your life and go, oh, it's like real. It's not just fairy tales.
Yeah.
Like, there is some mess with kids.
It's not Instagram slick.
Here's the other thing too. And we're kind of getting off on a rabbit trail, but I'm one of 8 children.
Yeah.
Right. So I was 10 years old when my parents had my 3 youngest siblings.
Yeah.
So I learned how to change diapers and how to do bottles and how to take care of babies and stuff by being an older sibling. Yeah. One of the aspects of church life and how it gives us skills for later in life is when we actually are in these contexts that aren't normal for us. So for young adults to be in the home with a couple that has children, and they're able to see like, oh, this is how you deal with a 2-year-old. Oh, this is how you deal with a fit. Oh, this is how you deal with a baby. Oh, this is how you, like, that needs to be a core part of what we are as a church. Like we should be, and that equips those young adults for later on in life.
Well, and talking about the lore of you and me, a lot of the early days of me catching on to ministry and understanding what Christ had for my life, we were just running errands. I was just in shotgun of your car while we just did stuff. And it's like, it costs you almost nothing to have some young adult climb into your shotgun seat and just run errands with you. And that windshield time might change their life.
That's right.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that, I'm over life groups, and I haven't had my interview yet, but I had told Taylor a couple weeks ago, like, we're losing 4 of our young adult life group shepherds that were older pouring into them. And that's something, and one of them is a young adult family that's going on the mission field. So
becoming missionaries.
Yeah, so that's awesome. But we do need more older life group shepherds, but that also doesn't downplay at all how effective the young adult married couples are that are life group shepherds.
Yeah.
Because when I started in life group ministry, for me, I don't know, how am I, 15 plus years ago now.
You're getting older.
When I was a young adult, I was 25 years old, married, and having people over in my house and being hospitable and leading a Bible study.
Yeah.
It's
really a numbers game. They're totally equipped. I just have more young adults than I have.
We have so many young adults.
Shepherds.
Yeah, we have so many young adults. And so the life group shepherd need is huge. And like you said, though, service in ministry is one of the areas where maturity happens. And we also all know the principle that how do you learn something better? You teach it.
Yeah.
And so being a teacher, like in a life group setting and helping someone open the Bible, walk through it, even if you're 35 years old with a couple of kids at home, you will be a better disciple of Christ when you shepherd 18 and 25-year-old young adults for a season.
Yeah.
Like it'll grow you.
Right.
I guarantee it.
And not to mention, like, if you're like, man, where do we find a good babysitter that would really like get along with our kids? Well, if you're leading a life group and there's a dozen young adults in your life group, like,
well, that's
hey,
it.
These are our family.
And no one wants to make the effort to make the connection with the young adults, but then I get requests for dog sitters, and I'm like, I'll put it out there, but I hope you're paying high.
As the previous Reach pastor, you know who watches my kids? Reachers.
Yeah, Reachers.
Yeah, who watches your kids?
A Reacher.
Reacher. Yeah. Right now.
Yeah, literally.
So Taylor, if what would you say is maybe something that people wouldn't really know about your role, or maybe what's the hardest thing about what you do? What would people be surprised about?
I think that's a good question. I think that honestly, the thing that I end up doing a lot that is so filling, so great that I get to do is be there for people in crisis. Like, I think that sometimes, like, people know we're busy, but like I don't know if they only think. I mean, I spend a lot of time studying for a sermon, and I spend a lot of time figuring out, like, administrating, the events and the things we're doing. But actually, where I enjoy spending most of my time is helping people who are struggling with something, somebody in crisis for something. As a matter of fact, I know the line in everybody's head is, well, I don't want to reach out to the pastor because I'm busy. And that's not just young adults. That's just, because they're busy.
Yeah.
Right. And I know that's not just young adults, but I tell people, like, I'm busy with helping you. That's what I want to be busy with, but I can't help you unless you tell me what's up, unless you reach out, unless you contact me. And so I think that one of the things that I don't think people realize is that we didn't sign up for this job hoping you'd leave us alone.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, man, I'm dying for you to tell me that something's going on in your life and you need help. I'm dying to be there and to show up at that moment to help you get through that thing, And that ends up being, it's kind of funny because it's like sometimes you are interrupting something I would rather not be doing. You know? Like, thank you for distracting me from the stupid thing I don't want to do. Now I can focus on you, So that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Well, one of the questions we always ask is, since our vision statement for the church is to know God, share life, and change the world, how does your lane, the young adult ministry and the next gen ministry, how does that help the church to know God, share life, and change the world?
I mean, we are borderline forcing young adults to share life. You know what I mean? Like, one of the things we do at the end of Sunday school and Reach that has been impactful since the day we implemented it is we make them pair up and pray for each other. And when I say pray for each other, I always make the joke, like, you can't say, well, my uncle's cousin's sister's cat is sick. It's like, no, you give a prayer request for you. I want to know what you've got going on. And you give that prayer request to that other person, be real, and then let that person pray for you. And I'm telling you, these kids, they will remember who the first person they prayed with is forever. They'll be like, I remember the first night I came to Reach, I prayed with that person. And it has a huge impact on them because they had to be real, and that person cared for them and loved on them and prayed for them. And so we forced them to share life, and they thrive in it. And I tell people, you have to knock young adults off balance, because their balance is their defensive posture. And if you can knock them off balance and make them uncomfortable, they'll start being real. So you make them share life. You teach the Bible for 45 minutes every week without apology, not topically, not for entertainment value, just so that they know God's word, they know who God is. And that is the recipe. Community in the Bible, that changes the world.
Yeah.
That's where we see people moving to. We've got a young adult moving to Eastern Europe right now, two young adults going to Eastern Europe to be missionaries.
Yeah.
We've already got some in Mexico. I'm going to visit at the end of the summer for a mission trip. Like, you want to talk about changing the world? We are actually producing pastors and missionaries and super volunteers.
Yeah.
That changes the world.
And like we already said, the young adults are in every ministry. Like, you walk down the hall to get your kid at Awana, like half the rooms are full of young adults.
They're all over. I mean, I think it was our children's director was just saying something like, we never have a residence in children's ministry. And I was like, really? Because I've got one applying through the process right now, a young adult, who I said, where do you want to be? And he was like, kids. And I was like, anywhere else? He was like, kids.
Yeah. And he's
cool.
like 21?
Yeah.
And
he's all about it.
Yeah.
You know?
I've got a guy that I've been meeting with, doing discipleship with, and he's in his mid to late 20s, professional guy in a career, works in the engineering field, and he's a single dude. And like, the thing that fills him up is to serve in Awana on Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to be with those boys. Like, that's all I want to do.
I appreciate that as a boy dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Taylor, how can the church be praying for you in your role and in ministry?
Yeah. One is praying that I can find the leaders I need for things like life groups. That's one thing. Another thing is, man, pray for these young adults, because the world is coming for them. I mean, literally, they are under assault all the time by the lies that are coming across social media. And I mean, that's why people are always amazed that I don't have any social media. And I'm like, okay, I am so serious about these young adults understanding how much damage it's doing to them that I have to lead by example in that. And so I don't have any social media, because I have to be able to look them in the face and go, you can delete that. Like, you can get away from that. And we've got dozens of young adults that don't have social media, because it's poison. I mean, it's killing them, and it's attacking them, and it's telling them lies about what they should want and what they should focus on. And so the main prayer is that they will essentially believe God's word over the lies of the world, because they are in that phase of life where they're trying to figure out, what do I believe? I mean, especially like you get out of high school when your parents are making you come to church, and it's on you now. You either believe God's word or you don't.
Yeah.
Well,
because the world's trying to tell them what their identity is.
Yes.
But but going back to what you just said about the vision of things, when they know God and they share life, like, that's where their identity is.
Yeah.
It's in God and the community of the church family. And that's what we were created for. It's to know God and to love people.
Yeah. And you truly, your identity is only in relationship to God. That is your identity. And so when you try to make your identity about anything else, it doesn't function, And so that's the prayer for them, is that they find that their identity is in Christ.
Yeah. Well, Taylor, we'll definitely be praying for you. God's doing something in the young adult ministry, and that's pretty clear. A lot of churches don't have the problem that we have, which is trying to find shepherds for life groups for young adults. Here at the Evergreen Church Life Podcast, we exist to empower our congregation to make a tangible difference in our local context. That means moving beyond just attending to truly knowing God, sharing life, and changing the world. We want everyone to see the richness of the body of Christ and how he's working around us through the ministries of Evergreen. Thank you for listening. It helps us and the podcast when people subscribe and share these episodes. So please help us equip the saints by helping us get the word out. For more ministry resources and sermons, please visit our website at evergreenbc.org.